And from the White House to Capitol Hill, what is Congress doing and what can it do to protect us from a terror attack right here in the United States? Representative Adam Kinzinger joins us. Good evening, sir.
Hey, Greta. Thanks
for having me. What is Congress doing and what can you do?
Well, there's a lot more we can do. What we have done, so in December, for instance, on the Foreign Affairs Committee, we had hearings in terms of the question of these foreign fighters. You know, who's being recruited out of the United States to go fight? Who's being recruited out of Europe? And the reality, it's not just because they're drawing from those populations. It's because folks are going to Syria or going to Iraq to fight for ISIS with clean passports, which means they get radicalized, they learn how to fight, like what we saw in France. Obviously, they knew how to fight, and then they can come back with a clean passport and do their terror here. What more can we do? It's a few things. Number one, we've got to stop sequestration on our military. This is devastating to our armed forces. We're at a time when, as a military guy, I can tell you we're making cuts we should not make in terms of executing the war on terror right now. We've got to defeat ISIS. We have to defeat this growing cancer in the Middle East. And as ISIS is more successful, it's encouraging people to join them because they see success and they want to be part of that success.
What about how easy it is to come to the United States? For instance, from France, it's just not that tough.
Right.
I mean, you could be on a no-fly list maybe. I realize that Ali is Ali apparently can't get the global entry thing, and he's a little annoyed at that. Yeah. But, you know, terrorists can get into this country. But what is Congress doing specifically to protect us from people coming here, or is that just an impossible task?
Well, look, it's not impossible. Difficult, right? I mean, there's always good. Humans are smart. They're going to find a way through any security measure that we have. We have to continually understand that the terrorists, just like our security measures are evolving, the terrorists are evolving in terms of how they think and how they can get in. Really, the front line of this, to be honest with you, is in Europe. Europe has got to wake up and realize their proximity is close to the radicalization of the Middle East. They have a much different immigration system than we have here. When we talk about immigration, we talk about people on our southern border. They talk about folks from the Middle East that are coming in and radicalizing their country and not learning their language. They are, in essence, the front line of this. We have our own issue here in terms of, you know, folks coming from the Middle East and potentially being lone wolf terrorists here. But in Europe, it's a big fight.
But you've even got the situation in Ottawa last month when they had the attack on Parliament. I mean, you know, that's Canada. Obviously, that's a lone wolf. It's a little different than this orchestrated attack, which was so methodical today. But it's just not that hard to walk across the border from Canada to the United States. And we all focus on the southern border, but you know what? Our northern border is just as porous. Not everybody's trying to enter through JFK.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to sit here and say that there's an answer to make this completely 100% safe. We have to constantly, in Congress, the president, you know, our military, law enforcement have constantly got to be evolving in terms of how they think, in terms of how terrorists think. But it's going to be a difficult task. But the one thing we can do is defeat ISIS, defeat radical Islam, and then look at the long game of this. You have young people that are 10, 12 years old that are being radicalized in madrasas right now to believe that the West is evil.
Well, you've got ISIS. ISIS is starting to give money to poor people in the region in Syria and Iraq. I mean, they're starting to look like Hamas and trying to look like the good guys in the community, and we're the bad people bombing the civilians.
And after the Cold War, we decimated our information warfare capability to save money, right? That's why we're seeing Putin is outmatching us in Europe in terms of his information warfare, and the same thing in the Middle East. We've got to take the long game here, and that's where Congress has to invest the resources necessary.
Congressman, nice to see you.